Good morning, everybody. This is Randi Rogers, and I've just come home from the Smith & Wesson IDPA Indoor Nationals, and I don't have a lot of video because it was very dark and very tiny, and it's hard to take video there. So I thought this time, instead of just putting up a bunch of video, I would talk about what I look for at the end of my match and how I review it and what kind of notes I make so I can learn more in the future. So I have my match booklet, and I have my scorecards, and I have my very own shooter's notebook where I make my notes on what I've learned and what I want to do better and differently in the future. So here goes. We started on stage 13, which was the cubicle craze, which had tons of movers. It was a little bit intimidating to start on because all of the targets moved, and so you had to try to make sure you got really good shots. The biggest thing that I learned from this stage was on the third position, you stomped on a stomp pad and you had a target that came out and you shot and then it went back away. And one thing that I learned was it didn't come out very far, so you really had to be leaning to be able to hit it. And I did okay during the walkthrough, but then when I went up there to shoot, I didn't come out quite far enough, and so I had a couple of threes on that target. So one thing I learned was I always want to make sure that I take a really good look during the walkthrough so that I can learn about that. We then shot stage 14, and stage 14 overall was good for me. You know, you had to plant the flag, which I think was the most intimidating part. So you have to try to make sure you don't let those little things get to you, but that you think about them really well, because if you miss the flag, that's a lot of time that can be added to your score. Stage 1 was right hand, so you had to shoot all of the targets with your right hand while moving. Then after you hit the activator beam, it started those movers that went in front of them, and you had to finish with a headshot freestyle. I was really excited about this one because I got all my hits. Stage 2 was a little bit of a struggle for me. This was Munchkin Land, where you had all the crazy targets moving, and they definitely interfered with me, and unfortunately I missed my timing just awful, and I lost a lot of time on this stage. I think the biggest thing that I learned here was just to make sure that I pay attention to what the targets are doing and then watch my other shooters, because a lot of people had a much better way to shoot the stage that I wish I'd shot it. So always pay attention to the people on your squad, because they may have a better way to shoot it than you do. 4 was the Enchanted Forest. This was a partially dark stage, and it was kind of crazy. This one I struggled on a little bit. You very first started by dropping a picnic basket, and then you had 2 targets that fell out. Well, it was dark, and so you couldn't really see the targets, and I got way trigger happy, and so I ended up shooting a target before it was actually there, so I didn't get any hits on that one. Don't recommend that. One of the things that I'm writing in my shooter's notebook is to make sure that I watch the timing of targets and that I don't shoot them before they're there, especially in those dark situations where you're not always sure. Stage 5 was good. It was kind of a standard stage where you had a lot of hard cover. This one of the biggest things always to remember on standard stages is they're not about winning, they're about surviving. So you want to make sure you take your time and don't push yourself on these stages, because it can hurt a lot. I enjoyed the get out of my house because this was one where I could do a tactical reload on the clock. I did it between the window and the hallway, and I pulled it off. I was so excited. So the magazine went in, no problem, and it stayed there, so I was very excited. I'd practiced that a little bit before I left, and I'm glad that I did. This was another learning lesson for me. If you notice in the video, when I go to shoot from the back of the car, I actually bumped the car when I was shooting, and I kind of accidentally caused myself to shoot a no-shoot, which was not good. So one of the other things that I'll be writing in my shooter's notebook is to make sure that I always be able to test out props. If you've ever shot at the Smith & Wesson Indoor Nationals, you know that there's a bay that has basically 3 doors, and so you get to shoot through the doors. And these ones, they're not really fun to watch because you can't see the targets, but these are, again, those kind of standard stages. So it's not about shooting fast, it's about getting your hits. The meat locker at the Smith & Wesson Indoor Nationals is usually a dark stage, and this one was probably my worst stage for the match. So overall, I definitely want to do some things differently in the future, and my biggest thing that I didn't do here was I did not use a light. I thought I could see well enough when I looked during the walkthrough, but when I actually shot the stage, I wasn't able to hit the targets the way I wanted to. So I wish now that I had used a light. I hadn't. So biggest thing that I will be writing in my shooter's notebook is always use a light. especially on the meat locker. Next time I will use a light even if I don't think I need one, because I know I want one. And then our final stage was standards. It was a good stage. I really enjoyed it. A lot of tactical reloads. So one thing, if you're planning on going to Smith & Wesson in the future, you want to make sure you practice those. So overall, I had a great time. Big thank you to the match and the staff, and I look forward to shooting again next year. Thanks, guys.